Hey guys, this is Double D in the morning, and this is Double D in the Sunday morning, episode 35. Failure is the success of progress. Everybody from Benjamin Franklin to Albert Einstein to Steve Jobs to Bill Gates to everyone that's ever had mass success has always had failure before success. So don't quit believing in yourself. Believe in yourself no matter what your goal is. Failure will lead to success, because failure is success in progress. Chuck Jones and Frisch Freeling and Mel Blanc and Tara Strong and people like that, they didn't wake up in one day they were that way. Everything takes a lot of training and hard work, specifically an animation goal. If you want to do anything that's worth doing, that you really want to do, it's going to take a successful attitude and a great thinking mind. You've got to learn that your failures will lead to your success, no matter what your success goal is. Like, for instance, in animation history, there's a part of 11 failures, in my opinion, of cartoons called the Censored 11. That's just the most notorious censored. But some of the greatest animation histories had some failure tunes that were the more racy and Jim Crow-like. But those failures led to success after the fact, when they started making more family-friendly ones. Everything has a bad point, but that will eventually lead to something more positive. Another example that one could be considered a failure to success is Stephen Hawking was one of the greatest minds of his generation and just the generation of people, period. He was one of the smartest people, but he didn't let his quote-unquote failure of his ALS, he was still, after he got diagnosed with a disabling disease, he was still one of the smartest people in the tech world, in the philosophical world. He is the smartest scientist that has ever lived or will ever live, next to maybe Albert Einstein, but the smartest disabled one for sure. He had some failures, he had some bad theories occasionally, but all great scientists have had what one would call crackpot theories, but his failures led to his success. But the kind of things I'm talking about in this video are just the failures that led to success, not the ultimate big failures like Mustache Man, or the other Mustache Man from the other country that I'm not going to mention the name because I can't, but you know who I'm talking about. The great people of the greats of all different kinds of fields of success have been failures at one point. Benjamin Franklin, took him a while to finally get that stroke of lightning with his kite in the key, but he was the person to figure out electricity and the science behind it. Thomas Edison is the world's greatest inventor, but not really when you think about it. He's the person that gets all the credit. There were multiple inventors of the light bulb, or the person that discovered electricity. It took him invention after invention, patent to patent things and get them right. He was the person that had the success with it, but he just perfected it. There was multiple different versions of the library, and the light bulb, and motion picture, and all of his that he gets credit for. He was just the people that perfected those inventions. So that's more of an example of someone getting credit for something that wasn't completely theirs. But that was still an example of failure and success, failure leading to success. Henry Ford is credited as the first inventor of automotive industry, and in many ways he was. But his famous first car was the Model T, which that just means that was the big breakout one. His Ford Model T truck, that was obviously, because T is the 20th letter in the alphabet, that was his 20th try. He didn't find success until the 20th model car that he made. I mean, sure, he found some success, because how did he get the Model T? But that's the one that blew up. And I mean that in a successful way, not an explosion. I was doing some research while doing this video, and I found out that Ford's first car was something called the Ford Quadcycle. There was a Ford Model A, but his very first car wasn't the Model T or the Model A. The Model A was the successor to the Quadcycle. So, believe me, work and failure lead to success. Another modern example of love them or I like them with what I'm fixing to talk about, but Jeff Bezos didn't become Jeff Bezos overnight. It took Amazon years, and they just recently started catching on in the last 15, 16 years, which has been a long time, but it took them years to develop that. Another example of failure that led to success was Steve Jobs founded his company in the late 70s and took off to a certain extent in the mid 80s, but he left the company in the mid 90s, the mid to early 90s, and he found other success under Pixar Animation, but came back a few years after the fact and got even more successful with his company, Apple. He made Pixar so successful and profitable that he sold it to Disney and then went back to Apple. Used that money that he got from Disney to make the iPod and the iPad years later from sales from his iPod. So see, Steve Jobs is another example where failure led to his success, because he was voted out of his company, but he was the driving force behind the company. And sure, they had failures in the 80s, well, like the other predecessor versions to what became the Macintosh computer. Good products, but failures in the business sense, and didn't sell enough. One of their failures back when Steve Jobs was with the company back again was the iMac, a revolutionary wide CD-based computer, Macintosh computer, that didn't have a disk tray that you just directly into the computer. A lot of modern game systems today use this same modern method, but it was revolutionary at the time, but only sold good in schools and educational and businesses. That was a failure that helped lead him back to the drawing board and make more success after the iMac. Another Steve Jobs and Pixar information notice about the two is his failures when he left the company led to Pixar's success. So this is another example of Steve Jobs' failure leading to success. He bought the Pixar company and helped develop the first two movies, A Toy Story and A Bug's Life. He sold the company to Disney in 2004, but without Steve, there wouldn't have been the failure and success and progress with that company. There was great creative forces behind the company. He was just a financial backer, like John Lasseter and Brad Bird. They were the great failures and successes for the company. There has been plenty of failures in animation. There's been 3 failures that have led to even more success. The Good Dinosaur, the new Lightyear movie, Cars 2, and Mars Needs Moms, I think. And I know what you're saying. I said 3, but I guess I was wrong on that. There's been 4. But they have made few and far between mistakes and failures. They're one of the greatest failure leads to success companies that has ever been. And there wouldn't have been a Pixar without Steve Jobs. Another animation failure that led to success is there wouldn't have been a Disney Renaissance, namely A Little Mermaid, the first Disney Renaissance movie, without the failure at the time in 1959 of Sleeping Beauty. 1959's Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty at the time was one of their biggest box office failures. It has since become a classic. But they did not do princess movies for 30 years after the fact. It wasn't until the late to mid 80s, or mid to late 80s I should say, that Roy Disney, his nephew, wanted to bring back Disney to the roots. And there wouldn't have been a Disney Renaissance if Roy didn't want to bring it back. But he brought it back in a big way. So the failure that led to that success was in the Disney family itself, because that was his nephew. But they have been on and off again for decades and years, having failures that led to even more profitable success films and TV shows. Disney is another big failure success story that has had 50-50 in their whole entire nearly 100-year history. Not that I'm talking about myself, but YouTubers as a whole is another example of failure that could lead to success. I haven't seen any of that. All I've seen is failure lately. But that's another thing that YouTubers that are trying to be YouTubers need to recognize. Your failure will always lead to your success. Just like all the other famous names I've already mentioned, there have been plenty YouTube failures that led to people's success because they never gave up. That's the key that I'm trying to get at in this whole entire video. Don't give up. I'm not going to give up, and I don't think you should give up either. Failure leads to success in anything, but especially something that your heart is into. I might give up on this particular genre that I'm doing. I'm still going to do, or niche as it's called, I'm still going to do videos from other channels, but I might start an animation YouTube channel because that's really where my heart is. Well, in conclusion of this video, thanks for listening, but in conclusion I'm going to say, remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit the notification bell to Double D in the Morning. And join me next Sunday for Double D in the Sunday Morning, episode 36. A wise person never gives up. And remember, if you like this video or my channel, remember to subscribe, like, and comment, and hit the notification bell to Double D in the Morning. And also remember to follow me on my Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and TikTok, and Facebook fan group, Drew's YouTube fan group, the links of which will be in the comments.